All right, sir.
Okay. Britain pursued, is that my word?
Yes, sir.
Britain pursued the crusade for free trade. I've just explained what free trade means. This was influenced by his own national interest. The Industrial Revolution was at its peak during the 19th century, and Britain was at the forefront in the Industrial Revolution. And the other countries could not produce as much and as fast as more economical as Britain could. So it was not in their own interest for free trade to operate. Free trade means they will be outtraded by Britain, which will produce cheaper, faster, and at larger quantity than them. The others were fighting for spheres of interest and control trade. Britain, on the other hand, was fighting for free trade. But as the 19th century unfolded and the Industrial Revolution was becoming more matured, other countries were looking for areas of exclusive influence where they could trade as an advantage. So from this perspective, Britain also had to join the crusade, and this led to the rush for colonies in other parts of the world, particularly in Africa. Not only that, after the French Revolution, there were meetings, there were movements for nationalism and the emergence of other large-scale countries, particularly in Central Europe, in Italy, and in Prussia. These were going on, and in stages, they became integrated after the Franco-Prussian War of 1870-1871. Okay, the Empire of Germany and the Kingdom of Italy emerged. The emergence of these two new actors on the international scene disrupted the balance of power that had existed in Europe until that time. Germany, the unified Germany in particular, was very strong in terms of demography, in terms of industrial resources, in terms of everything. The new German Empire that emerged for a considerable length of time allowed the trend of diplomacy to continue. But after the exit of Bismarck and the death of Kaiser Wilhelm I, German foreign policy was such that made Britain uncomfortable, okay? Because the new Kaiser of Germany, Kaiser Wilhelm II, had a vibrant vision of a German empire that would be strongly involved in maritime trade. He was quoted as saying that the future of Germany was to be found on waters. By so doing, he canvassed for the establishment of a strong navy, and this Britain took as a direct challenge to his naval supremacy, and hence he started to see that it was no longer in his own interest to remain isolated from the mainstream of European diplomacy. Okay, the new German Empire relegated France because all the indices of power were to the advantage of the new German Empire in relation to France. It was more populous, and he compared France to seek the industrially rich provinces of Alsace and Lorraine to itself, thereby expanding his capability for the production of gold, iron, and steel. So this disrupted the flow of European diplomacy, from which Britain had been isolated because it was self-reliant and self-sufficient. This was followed by colonial rivalries in other parts of the world, particularly in Africa, here in West Africa, in East Africa, in Southern Africa. All the countries, European countries. So, can somebody get me a bottle of water in Japan? It was no longer in British interest to be isolationist anymore. Apart from this, the trend of European diplomacy was such that there were clashes among European states at different parts of Europe, all of which had serious implications for British interests and diplomacy. In particular, Germany, France, and Russia were all jostling for influence in Europe. Because Germany, as I've said, emerged at the expense of France, and Bismarck had hoped that one day there will be a return match, that France would like to avenge its defeat from the Franco-Prussian War. Bismarck started to spin a lot of alliances that were initially aimed against France, but as time went on, also affected the diplomatic interests of Britain. These alliances started from 1873, the League of Three Emperors, then 1887, and so on and so forth. So because of this, it was no longer in British interest to be isolationist. France also identified that a major reason for its loss in the Franco-Prussian War was the absence of an ally. And so France was also looking for an ally. And between 1879 and 1894, France started to search for allies. And in 1894, the Franco-Russian alliance came into being, the dual entente. Okay? It was between France and Russia. Okay? French and British interests competed in so many other areas. And so, as the trend of diplomacy was going, as the trend of diplomacy was going, Britain saw that it was no longer in our own interest to be isolationist. And so, isolation seems to be non-splendid, as has been the case. So between 1904 and 1907, Britain came out of its isolationist foreign policy, foreign relation posture to get fully involved in alignment and formation of alliances. In 1904, it was able to form an alliance with France, that they will harmonize their interests and exchange views on issues of diplomatic concern. And by 1907, this was joined with the Russo-French Alliance of 1904 to form the Triple Alliance of 1907. And this was juxtaposed with the Triple Entente of Britain, France, and Russia, facing the Triple Alliance of Germany, Italy, and Austro-Hungary. So from then on, Britain moved from its posture of isolationism, which it had been involved in until the last quarter of the 19th century. The last quarter of the 19th century